How does this Southern Yellow Pine forest become plywood for your next construction project? Stay tuned to find out. Folks, I made it here to Fulton, Alabama.
We're at Scotch Plywood Company in Fulton, Alabama. Gray Skipper, Vice President of Scotch Plywood.
What's the operation look like today?
We basically start from seedling to saw log. We take care of the land that's taking care of us.
And that's key. To be able to understand how the wood products are made, specifically plywood, let's go back to where it starts, in the forest.
Southern yellow pines are made up of shortleaf, longleaf, slash, and loblolly pine. So when you say southern yellow pine, those four species make that up.
I'm just blown away. There was so much information that Gray shared about the southern yellow pine trees, the hardwood trees, the managing practices, and how much they are doing to be good stewards of the environment and making sure that these trees and the pine that they're growing is going to be here for the long term. They're just trying to make sure they leave it better than they found it.
It is in the grass stage. It's almost an inch around at the collar right there. It's probably been in that stage for about 5 years. But it's going to come with the next fire. It's probably going to come out. This is a longleaf pine that has just shot up out of the grass stage.
A lot of thought and consideration in every phase of this tree farming process. From planting, how strategic the grid is when you're planting, to growing, how do you do prescribed burns, how do you preserve wildlife habitat, and just overall manage the ecosystem. Lots of questions that Gray answered for me.
You see what we've done, like right here. But you see the flatness of the bark.
Right.
It's signifying the age of the tree is slowing down in growth.
As you can see, there's a large range of trees here that we looked at, from seedlings to some that are juvenile trees to more mature trees that are ready for harvest. The trees are harvested from the forest and sent to the mill. For plywood production, the logs are cut into 8.5-foot blocks. So now, how do you make plywood? That's a lot of plywood right there. Today we get a really exclusive tour of, where are we at?
Scotch Plywood.
So Gray reached out to me on LinkedIn. He says, why don't you come by and we'll show you how plywood is made. And I was like, absolutely yes, this is part of my world. These veneers are peeled off-site and trucked to this location. Truck's unloaded, and then this is the beginning of the process at this plant. These industrial dryers are going to take the moisture out of these sheets. These dryers are actually burning the wood waste, so there is no waste at the end of the process. These 1/8 inch thick sheets are being fed into the dryers. There are 20 chambers in this dryer, and it takes about 6.5 to 7 minutes for the pieces to get to the end. The hottest chamber is the one at the very beginning, chamber 1, and it's set to 555 degrees. The dried sheets take a 90-degree churn and pass through the green frame called the Metriguard, used to measure the density of the piece. The faster that the sound wave travels from one end to the other, the more dense it is. Here, this large saw is splitting the pack right down the middle. This sheet will be turned 90 degrees so that the fibers are going to be crossing 90 degrees to the others, giving it the desired strength to weight ratio. Now that the pack is cut in half, these pieces are put through the glue, and then they're connected by dropping down onto the long 4x8 sheet below. Another full-size sheet is placed on top, and then a crosscut saw cuts the ribbon to individual pieces. Here's the pre-press. Is going to make sure that all that glue gets distributed equally. So the process happening behind me here is that press. It's going to be taking each of the sheets that got pre-pressed over here is now being loaded into that accordion-looking press up there, and there's steam happening, steam heating each sheet and every layer. About 5 minutes and you'll get your final sheet. This press with the steam is going to do the final cure, and then we have our rough ply. These packs are stored for 24 hours before proceeding to the trim saw. The sides and edges of each sheet are trimmed to their final 4 foot by 8 foot dimension. The operator here is doing the final grading. The sheets are stacked into units and then banded with a strap. That's a beautiful wall of plywood right there.
We have visited the layup operation of Scotch Plywood, so we saw where we dry the veneers, lay up the veneers, and then saw and trim out the plywood that has been pressed.
But how does it get used?
Construction on housing, for subfloor, wall sheathing, roof sheathing, and then it's also been an array of industrial uses. So the golf cart seat that you sit on, the bottom of it is made out of plywood.
Wow.
And your boat seat on a pontoon boat, it's plywood. The deck usually is plywood. So it's stuff that you don't see, but it's under there. And what's the unique thing about plywood is its strength to weight ratio. So the way that it is constructed, we take and peel the veneers, and the veneers are cross-banded, and that gives it strength, whereas you would have to have a thicker board to have that strength. So that gives it the great strength to weight ratio.
Thank you so much for staying tuned and learning about how plywood is made, how it starts back in the pine forest, and how the trees become plywood that you may not even realize are under the seat in your golf cart, in your boat, or hold together your house. Stay tuned for the next episode, and take care.